I can show my brother how to live. This ain't the way, bro, do the opposite. At night I pray, hope we get out of this. Ain't tryna play no hot ass block with Knicks. I'm tryna hit an outlet, caught some kicks. Push the brake up in that Audi and then watch it drift. Hey yo, but look, on the real though, you something I kill for. And once I hit 2 mil, we watching the mail blow.
Welcome to another episode of Respect Your Passion podcast. I'm your host, David Irons. My counterpart, Chubby Jonathan Cruz, is not with us today, but that's perfectly fine. I want to start by saying thank you for the support always. Thank you for watching the episodes, for responding, for commenting, for liking, subscribing, everything. We really do appreciate it. We're going to continue to bring you content and continue to just be our authentic selves and continue to have guests on here who are very inspirational and who have a story to tell. With that being said, I got somebody who's very near and dear to my heart, my big brother. Growing up, I honestly, sounds cliche, but growing up, I honestly wanted to be like my big brother. Brandon Samuel, he is definitely an important part of my life, important part of, our mutual friends' lives. He's very honest. He's very, very swaggy. We're going to get into that later though. And he has an important story to tell. He has given me so much advice over the years. And, I've talking to him sometimes when things have gone completely south for me, and he's turned that around completely. I've talking to him when things have gone good for me, and they get even better. You know what I mean? So this is somebody who I don't just go to just when I'm having a problem. This is somebody who I go to for everything. And he has given me my flowers, and I'm always going to give him his flowers. This is a brotherhood for life. And yeah, man, go ahead and introduce yourself, man. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I would say, it's 8:24. I don't know if that matters for anyone East Coast, but I wasn't feeling that great for the day because it's a long day, right? But that was an introduction that I couldn't have even imagined. So thank you. That was incredibly humbling. I do want to say before I go into an introduction, though, how proud I am of you. So please. You give me way too much credit. I feel like we've lifted each other up. We lift as we climb. And I'm genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, grateful to have you as my brother, bro. So there's that. But yeah, had to make sure I said that.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. But as far as...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But hey, just like you said, it's 8:25 right now. And I asked him last night.
Yeah,
you want to be on the pod? I kept putting it off. Kept forgetting to ask him. And I asked him, and I kind of slid it in. I'm like, yo, so tomorrow's good. I was like, so tomorrow's good. He's like, I thought he was gonna be like, nah, bro, give me a couple of days, but he just said, yeah, tomorrow's good. I said 8:00. He was like, 8:00's good. I'll make it work. So shout out to you, bro, for just accepting it. I really do appreciate it. Even if you couldn't have, I would have been appreciative of it, but it makes me feel more important that you said that you could do it. So I appreciate that, especially after a long day. Appreciate
family first, dog. But yeah, as far as I guess who I am, so my name is Brandon Samuel, as David just mentioned. So I am originally from, I'd say, a hybrid of the Bronx and Mount Vernon, New York. As far as where I currently reside, I'm in Washington, D.C. I work in tech. I do recruiting management for a policy team in tech. But yeah, I think that's kind of me for the most part. Not defined by my job, but those are the only things I can think of right now.
Yeah, I think that what gravitated me to ask you more to be on the podcast episode is how you're not defined by your job, which is kind of out of the box for the pod. It's not about what you do. It's about who you are as a person. And I know, we shared a lot of stuff, and you have been through a whole lot, a whole lot, and it shaped you as the person that you are today. And I guess I kind of just want to ask you, like who are your inspirations, or who are the people who push you? Because we don't get through anything in this world without some help, like no matter
Yeah.
what type of help it is. So who made you the person? Speak on some of your inspirations, as well as your things that you went through to become the person that you are now.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so it's funny, as a kid, my mom always told me, like, you don't look up to anybody but me. Like, I'm your only role model. Me and your father, the only people you can look up to. And I was like, okay, like, that's weird. So like growing up, when people will say that they're role models like Michael Jordan or LeBron or whatever it is, like, I would never talk on it. And it wasn't, I don't know that I was embarrassed to say my parents, but I also just didn't, I don't know that I felt it in the moment.
Right.
But when you say who inspires me or who inspired me to get to where I am, it's my mother, hands down. She is my biggest cheerleader, but she's also my biggest inspiration. I think a lot of what I've done professionally and just ambition wise is to prove a point, or to even prove her wrong in some instances. So it's like, you'd say like, oh, well, how is she your inspiration if you were like doing something to spite her? But a lot of it was just proving to her that there are multiple avenues to success. Like, I don't have to take the traditional route. So I think growing up, especially coming from so being first generation American, having Caribbean parents who weren't able to like go to school here initially. So my parents came here in their 20s and 30s, and so like they were kind of starting from scratch, right? Like my father was 31 when he came here. Didn't have a degree, didn't have anything, had to like kind of work his way through school, do all those things. My mother, same thing. Both my parents have master's degrees, but I went to school with them, and I was in class with them, and seeing how they grind through all those things while being a partner to each other, while also being a parent. Those were things that definitely inspired me to be better. But I would also say, because they came from that more traditional Caribbean background, they had a very limited view of what success looks like. And so there's a joke, and I think you hear it a lot of times in Caribbean and African parents, where it's like, you're either a lawyer, doctor, engineer, or a disgrace. And so I feel like those were the only avenues for success that I had: lawyer, doctor, engineer. And I think very early on, I kind of cultivated this mindset that I wanted to be a lawyer. It's what felt right or seemed right. So I was in mock trial in high school. I did my first job was at a law firm, and that was after like calling around through phone books looking for places and stuff, and ended up running into someone at church who had a firm and was like, oh, well, we're interested. Like, we may need a file clerk or whatever. So I was doing that. Had some internships in college that were legal based as well. But it was through one of my internships. So I worked for the appellate board for Department of Health and Human Services in DC. And that was such a draining internship, just like kind of understanding a lot of the nuances from a legal standpoint. I was like, I don't want to do this. And I remember that summer when I told my mom, I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to do this. And she was like, no, you're definitely doing it. What do you mean? And so like we kind of got into a little bit of a back and forth, and ended up after graduation, I worked as a statistician and analyst for Department of Labor. And in working there, I was like, I definitely don't want to do this. Like, I can't even finagle through numbers that well or Excel that well. So it was a miserable job. And I ended up going to a recruiting fair at Howard, which is where I went for undergrad. And so at the recruiting event, there was a guy who was like trying to get my attention, right? Like, he was like trying to make eye contact, and I was like kind of looking away because I had my eyes on certain companies, and he kept kind of looking, and I'm like, all right, Brandon, like, you can't be rude. So like I went over to where he was talking to him, and it was like an agency recruiting firm, and he was like, yeah, I think you'd be really good to work for us. Like, are you interested in sales? Are you interested in recruiting? I was like, nah, not really. Don't know anything about it. He was like, well, just come talk to us. And so like I spoke to him. He asked me what was my burn. And I said to him, my burn is to make more than a lawyer. And he was like, you can do that here. You can, like, I can make you do that. What I didn't realize as well is that as I got older, I realized these things too. Like, just because you're a lawyer doesn't mean you make a lot of money. You know, like, it doesn't mean that you are, because there are different levels to every job, every profession. It's really just about who you are and what you bring to that job that kind of cultivates what you end up getting back out of it. And so I definitely was making more than some lawyers by the time I ended there, but it wasn't like the law that you think about when you think about like the fancy throwing money, like blowing money fast type. It definitely wasn't that. But I think it gave me a good foundation and a good start to my professional career. And it also allowed me to use something that may have been a negative, depending on who you ask, as far as like my parents' impression of certain things, using that as a positive and using that to my benefit. So all that to say, my mother is my inspiration, and that's kind of how I got to where I got to in a sense.
Absolutely. I like the fact that you, I like what you said about, you know, kind of proving her wrong a little bit about, you know, hey, like, I don't have to be a lawyer. I don't have to be a doctor. I don't have to do this. I don't have to, you know, there are other ways that I can provide for myself and more, you know, and you reach that level. You also were featured in I don't even want to say, what is it? Like, what do you call them online? Like, it's not a magazine or nothing, but you had you had a little, not a little, I don't want to, you know what I'm saying?
It was a little stint as far as like the tenure of it. It was little,
but it was big though. It's big. It's big time. It's big time. Where you stated that, you know, marriage ain't for you, or marriage just, you know, ain't what it ain't always what it seems to be. You know, like, that's to me, like, you know, obviously to certain people, like, you want to get married, you want the ring, you want to, you know, but like, you had a different view on it, and it wasn't in reading it, I don't think it didn't come from a negative place to me. It came from a place where you observed and you felt what you felt. So can you speak a little bit on that, and, you know, just kind of express your thoughts and express your feelings about marriage and where you are today? Because how far ago did you write that? I think you wrote that 4 years ago?
That
4
was
or 5 years ago?
Yeah, that was like 4 years ago. So I had just to give a little bit of context. So I had a stint where I was a freelance writer for Blavity and Interactive One. And so there was a platform called Cassius Life, which was like a men's lifestyle blog that kind of fell under the Interactive One umbrella. And so my first article with them was about marriage and my thoughts on marriage. And I would say for all people, you know, your brain and how you think should be fluid. You should not be sticking to one way of thinking for the duration of your life. Like, it's not beneficial. It's not helpful to anyone around you or to yourself. But in the article, I talked about observations that I had. And, you know, I think I started it off actually with talking about a cousin who I saw he and his wife to be arguing a lot. And I kind of pinpointed that they were probably not going to last, and ended up getting divorced like shortly after. But I think I was so used to seeing a lot of like divorce around me, or a lot of discord in relationships around me. You know, my parents have an unconventional situation or relationship. And so I think seeing that also made it a little hard for me to really like hone in on what marriage should look like, or what a good marriage looks like. To this day, anytime I'm asked, I talk about your parents, David, because I really do look at your parents as my blueprint for marriage. I look at them as my blueprint for like how to raise a family as well, like how to be just financially sustainable. And so I look at them a lot when it comes to what a good marriage looks like. And that's quite frankly because I didn't see a lot of those growing up. Like, my parents, my mother is one of 12, my father is one of 9. and they were the only ones at that time that were still together out of all of their siblings. Like none of their siblings had long-standing marriages, and so that's not an ideal thing to see. And so when you see that, and then also like at the time I was in a pretty long-term relationship that wasn't working out the way I would have initially wanted it to work out, through self-sabotage and then also just through a lot of other materialistic things. But that kind of, I don't want to say skewed, but it definitely tainted my thoughts around marriage. And I don't want to say tainted from a negative lens, but I think it just tainted this idea that you have to stick to one certain way of doing things. So maybe taint is not the right word. It opened my eyes up to the fact that there are a lot of different ways to do things and a lot of different ways to live life. And so to be a committed man in a committed marriage or relationship, that's one way to do it, which is amazing. And it's like you're setting a blueprint for other people. But it's also another blueprint to be someone that maybe hasn't found success in relationships, but finds a lot more of their success professionally, and is able to open doors from that lens. Like everyone doesn't have to do everything well. And I think that's something that I realized. Some people are just not meant to be in long-term relationships. Some people, their growth doesn't always align with other people's growth from a partnership standpoint. And so I think that was something that I started to see in that time of my life. And so I appreciate that I was able to tap into that space where I can just enjoy like being single, kind of like remove a lot of the pressure that my family was putting on me. I think a lot of that article was to do that. Like, cause after writing that, I was able to share that as like this is my disclaimer, like, so sending that to to my moms to read, and like having other people that will constantly ask me like, oh, when are you going to get married? Blah, blah, blah. Keep in mind at the time too, I was 25 or 26. So it's like, I don't even feel that's a time when you should be thinking about marriage for real. I think you need to be thinking about yourself and developing yourself. But that was just the next step expectation that everyone had for me with the woman I was dating at the time. But it allowed me to shift other people's narrative of myself, but then also allowed me to like comfortably walk in my narrative as well. Now, I would say that I do want to be married. Like I'm not going to be butthurt if I'm not, but I think that there's a beauty to having a partnership and sharing a life with someone that wants to see you grow, someone that wants to build with you, someone that loves on you and shit is hard, and holds you accountable too when shit is hard, but also celebrates you when shit is beautiful, or stuff is beautiful. But yeah, I think that's something that I do want as an end goal, but I'm also not pressed to get to it.
Right. I think, man, just seeing that shift or that growth actually, through life experiences, because you wrote that 4 years ago and you feel totally different. I think it's cool that you feel a different way, and it kind of just I feel like it makes other people feel more comfortable. When you dropped that article, I felt like it really, people read it and they were like, yo, he's right. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like people read it and was like, oh dang, like it's okay to feel like this. Like it's okay to like probably have this view. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But we're living in a world where a whole bunch of people follow.
Yeah.
Right. So, people get married for the wrong reasons all the time. Like marriage is a business. Like marriage is, like you've seen, I'm gonna just use Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton as an example. Like it's a business, they don't love each other. You know what I mean? And like I don't speak on celebrity stuff or whatever, but like it's obvious. That's just stating the obvious. It's a business.
Yeah.
And I agree with what you said. Like marriage should be about tough times, they still love you. Like not throwing nothing in your face. Just love all the time. Like I agree with you 100%. That's what marriage should be about. But nowadays, I don't feel like it's about that. So
I think it is when you have people that they didn't necessarily. I don't think you have to come from it to know what it is, but you have to see it. Yeah. I think if you don't see it, or if you just don't have, there's a level of emotional intelligence that I think you have to have if you haven't seen it, in order for you to be able to like make it work, because it's difficult, like it's challenging, and it's like those are challenges that I think, depending on the kind of person you are, depending on what you've seen, the easier thing is to just walk away from a situation or to walk away from the problem, versus really tapping in and communicating with the person that you love, right? And even when you think about marriages that are business, I don't even think those are marriages where there's no love, because I think it had to have either sustained or started with some sort of love, right? Like it may not be like the most conventional form of love, like lovey-dovey, but I think it's important for a baseline of respect / love to be there. And it may not be respect in like the fullness of the word. Because when you think about like the Clintons and like, you know, whatever infidelities or indiscretions President Clinton had, like, I don't want to say though that negates respect for Hillary Clinton at all. I think that more than anything, it was like, you know, he wasn't respecting her in her fullness, right? Like, but like, I think there was some form of respect there because he knows that he couldn't be who he is without her. And so there's some kind of love that I think comes when you realize like part of who I am is because of this other person.
Right. That's a good point. Absolutely. Hey man, you should be like a you ever seen Hitch?
Yeah. It depends on who you ask. It depends on who you ask. My father says to me all the time, "Stop therapizing me," because I feel like he thinks that's my goal in life. But I think a lot of it is just, and this is for the writing stuff and just for even just conversations that I have generally. It's like I want other people to see other sides of things. Like it's not like it doesn't have to be just black and white. There's so much gray to life, and I love that. From a working standpoint, the space that I'm in is like policy, because policy is so gray. Like, you know, you have law, which is a very black and white thing, and policy is kind of dealing with the law, but looking around the corner at where the law is going and coming up with a lot more of those creative solutions to more novel issues. And I like to live in that type of gray, where it's like you're looking ahead at where things may go to come up with some of the solutions to be better in the long term.
Right. I agree with that. I definitely don't think life should be about black and white, but people make it about black and white. And I feel like the people that make it about black and white, you know, when something happens to them and, you know, it's people judge them off of the black and white, then, you know, they're quick to say, oh, well, nah, there's some gray in this, or, you know, they try to make excuses. So me personally, I stopped criticizing. I stopped, you know, I just completely stopped. I see certain things every single day. And like, you know, we were just speaking about it before this. Like I see it every single day. And like, you know, now I just pray for them. You know, I just pray for people, because you don't know what a person is going through. You don't know what they have endured. You don't know how they think. You don't know why they think that way. Like everybody is different.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own story. Everybody has been through things. So it's best to just stay in your lane, be kind to people, you know, like that's how I feel.
I agree with that. And I think to tack on to it, you don't know when, I was actually talking to my mom about this a few days ago, you don't know when someone's reached their breaking point. You don't know if your nastiness is going to be the thing that breaks them, you know, like, and that's not worth it. Like what that does to your conscience is not worth it. So I think for that reason, in addition to what you said, it's like you do have to be very cautious with how you treat and how you handle other people, because, and you also don't know if you're talking to God. You know what I mean? Like God's in all of us, first of all, but like you don't know if like this is the angel that was sent for something, and you being nasty to them, like that's not good.
Right.
Now you're going to hell for something small.
First class.
Right. First class ticket to hell now. Look at you. Stupid.
Hey man, speak a little bit about your faith, and speak about what your faith has done for you and where it's gotten you, like in your lowest points.
Ooh. Oh man. That's something that can make me cry. I don't even like you all you said was faith. and my eyes started to do a little water. I was like, nah, but so my father's a pastor. But my dad has never been a like push religion down your throat kind of person, which I really truly appreciate. Like I know some people who are preachers' kids, or just people that have like religious parents altogether, where it's like their parents dictate so much of like their life because of religion or based on religion. Or based on like structure that comes with religion or whatever it may be. My dad's biggest things were like, I had to go to church, which I did. And that was pretty much it. Like we weren't a house where like we prayed together or we didn't read the Bible together. We didn't do devotion together, stuff like that. My mom is also very much so like grounded and rooted in her faith. I actually would say my mother is stronger in her faith than my father is. But one of the things that my dad used to always say on the pulpit is that I can't save my son, I can't save my wife. All I can save is myself. Right. And so that was kind of like the way he just lived, where it's like, you got to make your mistakes, you got to find God for yourself. And I've told him this. I told him this probably a couple months ago, that like the thing I'm most grateful for from him is that he allowed me to find God for myself and to love God for myself, because that was something where I think I was just going through the motions as a kid. We were taught to pray, you read the Bible when you're at church or whatever, but like I don't think I had like some real like relationship with God yet. Like it was just what I was told to do. Went to college, didn't really go to church for the first parts of college. I was in the choir, so I would go to church whenever we would like have to sing for certain engagements or whatever. And so I would use that as my like, oh, I'm going to church. But I don't think it was like real for me until I was in my early 20s. I would say maybe like 24-ish. That was when I hate the fact, some people, I don't hate it because, how you find God is how you find God. But I hate when we got to find God in our lowest points. Like I hate that, because like, why couldn't I find him when I was happy? Why couldn't I appreciate him when I was happy? Why or him or her? The being of God. Why couldn't I appreciate him, her, as I'm like thriving in life? Like, why did I have to be at a low point? But that was the reality. Like I had to kind of be in like a more solemn place, I think, to really sit still. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that sometimes like, we move so fast in this society where we don't really recognize and acknowledge the placement that God has in our life, because we're moving so fast, because we're so concerned with what other people have, and like not looking at where God has positioned you and where God is preparing you to be. And so I think when I was in a job that I wasn't happy in, I was in a relationship that was failing, and I was 24. Yes, I was just miserable. And I think things were hitting a low that I hadn't necessarily experienced before. Like I had my first anxiety attack when I was 24 and couldn't put my finger on what was going on. And then when I realized it, like I have to go to the doctor, like I was in therapy, in and out of therapy starting at 24. And so like that was something else that like, it really forced me in a lot of ways to lean on God more. And a lot of nights where I just cried myself to sleep, or, had to pray myself to sleep. My dad always says, don't count sheep, talk to the shepherd. And so I found myself a lot of times just talking to God. And I saw things start to turn around, like through my faith and through like therapy, and just like seeing how like my life started to take a pivot in a positive way. It really overwhelmed me, but overwhelmed me with gratitude just for God keeping me in that time frame, because it was a really gloomy time frame. And I'm someone, especially at that time, I communicated a lot of my emotions through writing, and so that worked in my favor because it was something I was able to get paid for. So like, being able to talk about not wanting to get married and writing that in an article, right? And like being able to talk about my depression, writing that in an article, and then being able to deliver that stuff to like people that I love because I didn't have the boldness to say it with my chest. And so like that was how my mom even knew that I was diagnosed with depression, that I was dealing with all that kind of stuff. And but in those conversations, I was able to like talk to her and talk to my dad too about how like I felt kept by God, like in so many ways. Right. And just even now knowing that, finding comfort in the fact that the plan has already been created. It's already been like marked out before I was even born. Right. So what sense does it make? And I'm still dramatic as they come. So, you know, right. There's that. But like, what sense does it make to really like dwell and to worry about things that you can't control? Like I'm realizing right. now that it's pointless.
The part that stuck out to me the most was definitely when you said that God is he or she or, you know, whoever it is, like God is always forgiving, you know? So like when you're upset and you're mad and like you have to find God at the lowest point, and then when you finally do find God, then you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe that I was so ungrateful. You know, that happens to me to this day, you know what I mean? Where I'm just like stressed out about something, or I'm just like going through certain things and like I feel helpless and I feel like I'm worrying and concerned, and you know, and I said it before, but I said it in the episode that I had, you know, that sometimes you got to just be how you are. Mm-hmm. You know, you just got to be for a while. You just got to soak a little bit. But in that mind frame where you're soaking, you got to remember that God is on your side. Like, you know, you got to remember to give gratitude and just to be grateful for certain things, because things could be a lot worse and a lot different. So you being self-aware that, you know, that you have God and you're able to bounce back because, you know, God is forgiving. Like God ain't gonna punish you. God is gonna either teach you a lesson or just continue to bless you. And in mm-hmm. that lesson is a blessing anyway. So yeah, like you're like, bro, like you hit it right on the nail as well. When you said that you were happy that your dad let you find God, you know, because or you don't shove religion down people's throats, because mm-hmm. I'm the same way. Like I believe in God, like, and I know people who are not so, you know, and I'm still very, very close to them. Like I'm still very, very cool with them, you know, because they have different experiences with God. But I know my experience with God, and I know that it's real. So I'm really not, you know, I'm not trying to push it down anybody's throat, or I'm not really trying to, you know, become annoying with it. But I can just speak based off of my experiences.
And it's sometimes not even about being able to speak off of anything, but just how you carry yourself and how you walk, right? Because Christianity is a walk. Faith is a walk, like whether it's like in the traditional sense of Christianity or just like knowing that you have that relationship with God. How you conduct yourself, how you appear, people are always going to think about those things, right? They're going to see it. They're going to feel like, all right, like this is a good man. They may find out later, it's like, oh, like you go to church, or oh, you pray, you believe in God, whatever it is, like, oh, tacking that on, it makes sense. That checks out. But if you're nasty and then you got the nerve to talk about, oh, you go to church, it's like, what? Like that pushes people further away from God versus like carrying yourself in a way that is like loving, humble, forgiving, kind. Like those are the things that I think really make us as people better Christians. And so, and I see that in you all the time, you know, like just how you carry yourself, how you move. And I try to be the same way too. So that's one of the things I really do value. I think to tack on to that, though, something else that is important to me, and this is, you know, everyone does with their money what they do with their money. Like, you know, I feel like when it comes to like shopping and stuff, you're probably the person I'd go to first. Like if I'm about to buy something that I know I shouldn't buy, I'll go to you because I know you'll tell me yes. Or you'll also tell me no. You'll be like, nah, you don't need that. Or didn't I see you wear something like that before? Like you'll do that, right? And so I appreciate that. So my money.
I'm sorry, I gotta cut you off. It's bad, right? Because like I would say that, I'll be like, nah, bro, like you don't need that. And then you'll be like, nah, but yo, look how this is placed this
Yeah,
way, or like this and that. And I'll be like, yo, you right,
you're
bro.
right.
Copy. I'm like, you right, bro.
But the most major purchases that I've had or that I've incurred, uh, that I've leaned on you for, are like my most proud purchases. So there's that. But
Thanks,
I would
bro.
also say,
A bad influence.
nah, I mean, is it a bad influence on fly? Like, I don't know. Like,
Nah, it's not.
I
It's
think
not.
it's time well spent, money well spent.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely. And go ahead.
I would say
Go
to
ahead.
the point of like, so my point in saying that was I'm clothes are something that I spend a lot of my money on, right? But like, I think something else that's very valuable to me is tithing, and giving God back what He deserves. So as a kid, my mom, from when I had an allowance, or I don't even know if I had an allowance yet. Maybe I did, but my mom would make me like give 10% of whatever my allowance was to my offering every week. So that was one big thing. Whenever I would get any money for Christmas or for any my birthday, any holiday, I had to give 10% of that money to church. I used to hate that as a kid. I absolutely hated it. I was like, so you are telling me how to spend my money? Like that doesn't make any sense. But I also watched my parents consistently give 10%. I remember when I was in college, I was like, oh, all that tithing is out the door because I'm not here. I don't go to a church. Like, you can't tell me where to put my money. And then my mom lost her job end of my freshman year of college. And I remember she continued to give 10% of her salary, like not her unemployment, but her salary, like from what she was making before that, which I thought was dangerous financially. But that was just the amount of trust that she had in God and what would come out of it in the end. And so, she did that and she was able to end up, after unemployment, found the job that I would say kind of ended with, and the job that she loved. So I think it had its value. When I started working, I still didn't really tithe, but it was when I got into that low point was when I started to like really like pick it back and be like, all right, Brandon, like God got you out of this rut. Now you got to give him what he deserves. And so like from that point forward, so for the last, I would say 7 years, I've been tithing faithfully on a weekly basis. Whenever I get a promotion, whenever my pay increases, that tithing increases as well. And that's not me trying to force it down other people's throats, but I think it is something that we need to be mindful of, like stewardship and like what good stewardship looks like. So tithing is one component of that. Like if that's not something that you can do monetarily or you don't feel empowered to do it, giving back to your community is another form of stewardship, right? Like being able to not only walk the walk, but like help other people to walk whatever walk it is. And so, community service in the sense of tutoring or mentoring other kids, or going to volunteer at a soup kitchen or whatever it is. But like finding something that is not about you, something that is as selfless as possible to pour back into God's children. I think that's like a key thing for me, and I think a big part of why I am as like successful as I am, just like holistically, is because of what I gave back to, or what I continue to give back to God.
Right. Yo, I love that. I love that. And I don't want to. I know this, like, times now are very, very sensitive, but I'm gonna say this, and as a man, like as young black men, being able to provide for ourselves and our own and our people is a good feeling, but being able to provide for somebody else who you don't even know is an amazing feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a great feeling. That's what I was thinking of when you said that, because you don't know where these ties are going sometimes.
Yeah.
So you doing that unselfishly is a great thing, bro. It's a
And
great
think
thing.
about what it can lead to. Because
Right.
when we think about our brotherhood was formed through a mentorship program.
Right. Yeah.
Like we were, our families were always tied, so that was always a thing. But it's like I don't feel like our brotherhood would have been as strong if it weren't for someone else. So in this case, Liz or Sean, like giving us back
Shout out
their
to Liz
time.
and Sean. Shout out
Yeah,
to Liz and
man.
Sean.
They really set a tone for like long standing brotherhood. Like I mean, everyone that we came through those programs with. But like, I feel like me and you, like specifically, like what, like that is different.
Absolutely.
And so, had someone not given their time and given back to God in a way that was deserving, we would have never had the bond that we have right now.
100%. 100%. That's the truth. Love and care and all of the above make the world go round, man.
Absolutely. Compassion.
Caring for other people, compassion. Yep. That's what makes the world go around. What advice would you give to a younger you? To a 16-year-old Brand Sam, Grand Slam.
Oh,
what would you get? What would you say to yourself?
Damn. That's one of those things that like I just kind of like saw myself just now. And it was kind of weird. It's funny. So it's a very long-winded response, but a couple of days ago, I was randomly thinking. I was driving, and I was thinking. I was like, "Yo," I asked one of my homies. I was like, "Yo, do you ever look at yourself, or do you see yourself as like what you are now, like who you are now, or do you ever see yourself as like a younger version of yourself?" He was like, "Nah, I kind of see myself as who I am now." He's a really confident dude, like really like knows where he is, know whose he is, like where he's going, etc. And I was like, that's crazy because like I actually see myself a lot of times, like, or think other people see me, I should say, as like 15-year-old Brand, or even 14-year-old, 13-year-old Brand, and like that was, I would say, from the ages of 13 to 19 was like top tier insecure Brandon. Like I wouldn't say I thought I was worthless because like I never thought that, but like I think that I always thought I was inferior to a lot of people, even the people that I hung out with or that I even to this day consider like close family. Like it's like I just had like an inferiority complex of sorts. Right. I think I feel like parents do what they can. Parents do the best they can with what they have. I think my pops was really like, how do I want to say this? So I love my pops. Like my dad is great. But I think his ways of rearing a child were always a lot more aggressive. And I think sometimes the talk, like being talked down to, and not being like treated in what seems to be a loving way as a kid who's impressionable can be really rough. Like how you talk, the words that you use to a kid are really important for how they start to think about themselves, right? And so like I feel like I had an impatient father, and so in his impatience he would say things that were not the nicest, and so I start to believe those things about myself. So my mother, on the other hand, my mom was like Donda. Like my mom thought she was so proud of me for anything that I did. Like I could do no wrong. I could be everything that I wanted to be in my mother's eyes, which I loved. I think the problem was one of the things that I admired about my mother was how driven she was. Like, getting her bachelor's degree at 50, getting her master's at 53, 54. But that included a lot of years of school, like going part-time, taking classes here and there, whatever it is. And it also included a lot of internships. My mom was not home as much. Like my dad was the one that was around more. And so I wasn't getting the Donda talk in my ear as much as I was getting my pops' talk. And so I think that played a really big part in how I saw myself as a teenager. And it wasn't positive. Like I don't think that I had very positive views of who I was. I would honestly even say until I was like in my mid-20s. And I think that also led to how relationships went. Like I feel like I was in relationships where I could have been manipulated a little bit more because of my insecurities. And it may not even have been like purposeful manipulation, but like, I know there were things that came up or things that happened where it's like, I kind of played into it because I just didn't already feel that great about myself. So I would say the biggest thing that I would tell myself is like, yo, like, you can do anything. I basically tell myself what my mother told me. Like, you can do anything. Don't listen to anybody. You can do anything, and you got this. Because I think the thing that I am most proud of myself for is that I have managed to make success in what appeared to be an unconventional way for most of the people that I was around. So, like, being able to inadvertently become a blueprint for a lot of my like peers or like people that I like am close to, for my family as well, doing things that my family hasn't or wasn't really able to do. Like, even when I think about the fact that like my pops just got his first house at 68, you know, and I got my first house at 25. Like that was that was something that I didn't really like process until he maybe a month after he got the house, and he was like, you know, like, you know what this is like because you were dealing with this, but I don't know what this is. Like, I need you to help me. And I'm just like, oh snap, like I can help you. And that was 9 years past 16. So like it didn't even take that long for something like that to happen in the grand scheme. But at that time, I would have never thought my life would have materialized in that kind of way. So yeah, my biggest thing would be like, yo, you got this.
Right. Right. Hey, I think it's super important for parents now to let go of how they may have been raised.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let go of all the things that made them feel a certain way and don't do it to their kids. You know, you know, be more kind, like be more gentle. You know, it's a different world that we live in now. You
Yeah.
know, as to when we were growing up. You know, there's a lot of more outlets of influence now. You know, we didn't. Now these kids are on iPads and certain things. We were playing outside.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like we were playing outside. There wasn't much tech. You know, of course we had Game Boy and
Yeah.
you know certain things, PlayStation, and everything. But now you can literally grab your parents' phone and
And just go to
scroll
town.
on whatever you want to go. You know, so
Yep.
um, words are impactful, especially when it's coming from somebody that you see every single day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially when it's coming from somebody who is supposed to be your guide and your protector, you know, like 100%. You know, so I think this goes back to the point of just being kind, you know, being nice. And I'm not saying this about, you know, your father. I'm just speaking in general
Yeah. Yeah.
about just everything, because you see it every day. You see people are not okay within themselves, so they
Mm-hmm.
take it out on their children or they take it out on their loved ones. And you know, I feel like a lot of people are guilty of it, and a lot of people don't know that that's what's happening. But you know, now is the time where you got to self-reflect and be like, okay, like for example, I just want to throw this in there. Like my father, he my grandfather, God rest his soul, he would, you know, he's old fashioned. He would give
Yeah.
him spankings.
Yeah.
You know, he give him spankings and everything like that. My dad was like, I'm not doing that to my kids.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like he was like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that. So I'm like, I hated it when I was younger. Like
Yeah.
what, like, you know, so he disciplined us in a different way.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I'd rather get spanked than the way he disciplined
You say
us.
that.
Yo,
No, I'm telling you.
bro, he used to take my Game Boy and my games, man. What am I supposed to do now? Like take
Listen.
my privileges to go outside, my TV privileges. I'll be like, yo, man, I could get over a spanking. But nah,
Not if you
obviously
getting
I'm just
both
kidding.
though. If you not get you get all your stuff taken away, you can't go outside and your backside hurt. It's not fun.
Yeah,
That's
it's
not
over,
fun.
yeah. It's over. It's over. Yeah, man.
But I
Don't
think
worry, man.
so. I agree though. I think that parents do need to like be very mindful of like what they want to take from their upbringing and how they like put that into their children. But I think also one of the beauties of the world right now, I think the world is raising kinder people. And so even if your parents are not emotionally intelligent enough to like, be everything that you need them to be, we live in a resourceful world. So you should be able to seek it out elsewhere. If you're not finding it, like I said, I still look at almost anybody that you ask will tell you that your parents are my blueprint for what marriage should look like. Like pretty much anybody will tell you that. My own parents will tell your parents that. Because like that's something that I've carried, and it's because I saw that early. I'll never forget, and I don't know if she's gonna see this, Auntie Cass, I love you. But I remember I told your mom once that your dad, I think he was dropping me off on the side of the highway or something, like because it was easier for him to drop me off on the side than to drive into my block. And so I made a joke about it to your mom, but I was just saying it to be funny, like because the joke at that time was that your dad didn't like me, and so I was like kind of making the joke to be funny. And then I remember I said the joke maybe one day, and then 3 days later, your dad was dropping me home, and he dropped me in front of my house, and I was like, wait, what? And so I asked your mom, I was like, did you tell Mr. Irons that I wanted to be dropped off? She's like, well, no. That way, so you told him that I said it, and she's like, I had to. I was like, what do you mean you had to? She was like, he's my best friend.
Yo.
And that, like, I was maybe 12, but that has always stuck with me, that she called him her best friend. I hadn't heard adults use that. Like you hear the young marriages, people, oh, you're my best friend, blah, blah, blah. I had never heard like adults who had children. I had never heard any adult refer to their partner as their best friend. And that was a really big deal for me. And that's something that I will carry because like, I want that, And so I think the point of me saying that is that even if you are not getting what you feel you deserve at home or like from like parenting, seek it out elsewhere. Seek it out through your teachers. Seek it out through your friends' parents. Seek it out through your friends. Like, and I think a lot of that too. Like, I pray for discernment every day because I'm like, all right, I want to make sure that I'm keeping the right people in my life. I'm surrounding myself with people that are like genuine, caring individuals. But a lot of it is like also me seeking out people that have things that I want. You know what I mean? Like, come from spaces that I want to be in. And not doing so from a selfish way, but like spaces that will teach me to love better and teach me how to like be more kind to individuals like that. And I think that's everything. Like we could want all parents to, do the right thing by their kids, but life's man, life be lifing. And like when my dad, like, cause I told him a lot of the stuff that I like felt. And like he started like rattling off all the problems that he had. He's like, you don't know what it was like for me to do X, Y, Z. And I'm like, damn, I don't. Like, and you're right. Like that's heavy. And thank you. Like, thank you for like with all of those things going on, you still were who you needed to be to me. I just wish you were a little softer about it. Like I wish it wasn't always so intense with you. And we work through that. I accept him for who he is though, and I love on him regardless because I'm like, you can't change who you are. You can't change your circumstance. You can't change what it did to you, but you can change how you respond. And so like a big thing for me is just make sure that my response is one that comes from love. My response is one that shows my faith. I want you to see God in me. Like I want you to see God in everything that I do. I want to be a blessing to other people, and like holding things as malice or holding things like from a resentful place, that's not getting you there.
Right. You dropping gems, bro. You dropping gems.
I'm just speaking
100%. 100%, bro. I agree with everything you said, man. And that was hilarious. That story about my parents is hilarious, bro.
I remember it to the T. Like your mom, like kind of turning away from me and like hiding her face, like embarrassed because she told them. Like I remember all of it, man. And I was young.
Yo, I got a funny story too. But I got a whole bunch of them with my parents doing that. I literally cannot tell my parents anything like individually. Because then they gonna be like, yo, man, I wish your mom was here. Yo, I wish your dad was here. Like, I remember high school. This was Dang, high school was 11 years ago. That's crazy.
That's why.
High school, right? Bro, I wasn't the best high school student, and I had a religion final, and I was cheating on my religion final. Like literally like just like blatantly cheating. I'm on the last question. I swear to everything. It's like a movie. I'm on the last question. I look up, I see the teacher.
No.
Teacher looking at me, I'm like, this is how stupid this is how stupid I was. I was like, please, it's the last question. So he was like, I'm sorry, like I gotta, right?
Damn.
So like I remember that day, I didn't want to go home.
Yeah.
I was running. I was like on the run, bro. I went to Soho. But they called my mom. One of the I forgot who, Sister Veronica. She called my mom.
Mhm.
And she told her, and my mom was like mad, but I was in Soho. She was like, so then when I got off the train, she was there and she was like, you really went to the city? Like after all of this? Like, so I was like, yo, can you not tell not tell daddy, please? She was like, whew. And then you got the nerve to tell me not to tell your father?
Oh,
I don't
man.
she's like, I don't keep stuff away from him. I was like, yeah, but can you like just like not can you just like but like I didn't care about that. Like I don't care if like I was just thinking like, bro, I'm gonna get in trouble.
Just
like
this one thing, please. Like,
yeah, I'm like, yo, you tell him everything. Can you just not tell him this? But like to her, it was like she probably felt
deal.
Yeah, she was like, I think the next day she was like, you better tell him before I do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because she was like probably walking around with guilt. Like, dang, I don't tell him nothing. So like, man.
And I love that. I love that. Because it's like,
yeah.
Both parents should know what's going on with your kids. You know what I mean? Like that's partnership. Right. You know, like, and yeah, there's certain things where it's like you would hope that they protect a secret or two, but like I'm sure like if it came really down to it, they would. You know, like if it was something that was like worth protecting, that was not something worth protecting. Like,
yeah.
But
especially after I went to the city, like
right, exactly. You had some nerves. You had every right, and you're lucky they didn't smack you up right there.
Right, facts.
Man, but that's something that I want to be able to like give to my kids one day if I have children. You know what I mean? Like where it's like to see that, because now you are going to push for that kind of life for your partner and for your child. You know what I mean? Because it's like that's what you saw, and you saw how that worked. So it's like now you're gonna want certain things that are similar for you and the kid, and like that's important. Like that's the thing that I think is really important when you see those kind of things. Like I saw it in them, and I was like, I know that's the kind of stuff that I want. You know, like I don't want my kids to like be pitting the parents against each other, or you know, only feeling comfortable going to their mom versus me. Or like, you know, but that also starts with how you build rapport with your children too. Like I feel like your parents were always your biggest fan. So it's like even in the case of, you know, them being disappointed, you know that they always got you. You know, they're always going to be a cheerleader. They're always going to like spit love or pour love into you. And I think that's important. So it's all about, it's a two-way street, but I think I'm hopeful for this generation ahead, because I feel like there's more resource out there that can be used for harm, but it's also a resource that can be used for good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think life will be better.
Yeah, there's a lot of good in the world, but the bad is bad gets just put on the spotlight, you know. Mm-hmm. But 100%.
But that's why also communication is critical. So like being able to talk to your children, like that's one thing about my mom that I've always just adored. My mom always talked to me like a person. Like it was not like she didn't do the baby talk for real. Like, and she always said that she's like, I didn't baby talk to you. Like you were a person. Like I wanted you to like learn how to like articulate and how to have conversation, etc. Before we would go to church, mom was like, Brandon, do you know where we're going? Like, yeah, we're going to church. She's like, all right, how do you act when we go to church? And then it was like, all right, you gotta be quiet. It's like, all right, if you're quiet, we'll go for a walk after church. Like, you know, stuff like that. Like to help me to understand like what communication was like important. And I tell my dad all the time, I was like, yo, I wasn't a kid that you needed to beat. Like, I'm not a kid that needed to be beat. I'm a kid that just needed to be talked to. And I think there
Right.
are some kids where it's like, if it's a last resort, discipline may need to happen. But like, think about what that looks like. And then also think about what the conversation looks like before and after said discipline.
Right.
Because I think conversation needs to be had. It doesn't need to be something where now the kid is hiding out in their room, packing up their bags, faking about to move out or whatever, like
Yeah,
nonsense.
facts.
It needs to be something where like you're able to go back into that kid's room after. Do you know why I did that? Do you know why we had that situation? Like, because you weren't doing what you're supposed to do, and come back with a calm tone, calm demeanor. Like, I think treating children like people is the biggest thing, and not treating them like they're grown, but treating them like people. So like respecting them like people, respecting them, loving them like people. But like, yeah. But we all, it's iterations of, we're all iterations of the same kind of thing, like, and I think as we get old, as we advance, those iterations get better.
I agree with you, bro. I agree with you. And life lives, bro. And that brings me into my next thing before we go. All the people want to know, man, who's your style inspiration? I mean, I would say it's me.
You're one of them.
But
you are one of them.
Let me stop.
You are.
Let me stop.
That's not a gas. Why would I go to you and ask you before I buy shit?
That's true. That's true.
There you go.
But those Instagram posts that you have, and I'm gonna put clips of like the Instagram posts that you have. But when you said life be life been life, and I your post last week, it was either last week or 2 weeks ago. It was like life been life, and he's like, man, life just been lifing. And it was like a photo dump that you had, and I'm just like, man, this dude look like he enjoying himself in life. Man. Like I love it, bro. Like
I try to.
What I'm gonna post, and I'm gonna post that. I'm gonna post your fits. So let them know what that fashion inspiration is like, and let them know like what it is to help you get dressed in the morning, or what you put on, what you throw on, how you feeling.
Yeah. So I would say I'm a mama's boy, OD. So you're gonna be able to see that through anything that I've said in this, you can see that. My mom is probably number one for like my inspiration for style. Like, so my mom worked on 7th Ave, so Fashion Avenue, for those that are not from New York, for most of my upbringing. So she worked in the fashion industry. So she was at Bob Mackie, who used to do most of Cher's clothes. She did Flora Kong, which I think she did a lot of like Farrah Fawcett stuff. So like, my mom like was around a lot of style stuff and used to like go to Fashion Week and stuff like when I was a kid. Right. And so I think she was like the blueprint for it. My mom was always overdressed. Like, and she didn't care. Like, she wanted to be a standout. And I think even a couple of days ago, it's funny, I was in LA for work, and I was like, when I was getting ready to go out there, I was looking at my closet, and I'm like, all right, Brandon, what are you about to wear out here? And I had a fit, and I was like, this fit would look good with my Bottegas. And I'm like, nah, but Brandon, you can't like, these are white people. You don't want to be like doing too much, blah, blah, blah. And when I got out, so I wore my Converses instead. So that's a big contrast, right? But it's like, I could still make it fly, right? So it was still fly. But when I got there, like, my boss was in red bottoms. My other like peer manager was in, she had a Chanel bag, but she was wearing YSL shoes. And I'm like, Brandon, you dimmed your light.
Right.
For these white, I was like, my mom would be so disappointed in me. That was the first thing I thought in my head. I was like, you got some nerve. And you Brenda's son? Like, come on, man. But I was really pissed. I was pissed, bro. But I think, so she's my biggest style inspiration. I would say second to her, coming up, it was Kanye. Just because of the originality. I think my biggest style influence, though, is Donald Glover. Childish Gambino. I think his ability to master like the old school like 70s ish vibe, because it's very much so like a Mad Men, but it's like a Mad Men meets Sopranos type of vibe, like for his clothes, and it is always fire, like always fire. Like I have one of his lookbooks. Bookmark. I'm looking. I see like right above here says the Donald Glover lookbook, like because that lookbook is just like GQ's like top tier. That's the best lookbook GQ has, and so yeah, I would say those are my main style inspirations for sure.
Smooth, bro. Smooth, man. So look, I feel like you're gonna be somebody's style inspiration one day. I'm not talking about your friends, because I know your friends, and me personally. You already. I'm talking about somebody that doesn't even know you. You know, probably watch you and be like, "Hey,
put the plug out here."
That's my style inspiration right there.
Put the plug out here. I want to. If I could do anything in the world that wasn't my job, I'd be a stylist. That's what I would want to do. Like I feel like I could. One of my boys, he was like, yo, I'm trying to like up my style game. And like, I had a spreadsheet together. I'll be talking about, I hate Excel. I hate doing things with numbers. I had a spreadsheet ready. I was like, all right, bro, this is what I need from you. Like, I'm like, what's your budget? Like we talked through what the budget was. I started like pulling all these links, all these pictures of like lookbook inspirations and shit. I like that. That gets me geeked up. Like I love like dressing people. So anyone that needs a stylist, like I don't even need money for real. I get, but pay me. But like I don't need money for real. Like I just want the joy of it. But pay me.
Nah, you gonna need the breach, bro. I'm telling you, you're gonna need it. But hey, bro.
When you on your videography stuff, like, because you about to be the one that plugs me.
Absolutely, and I owe you a shoot as well.
And that too.
We supposed to shoot that day. We supposed to shoot that day too.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Shoot. And you know, there's gonna be more to come, bro. Yeah, like, man. Bro, we ain't even touched the surface yet. We ain't even scratched the surface, bro.
That makes me so proud. It makes me. I'm not proud. I'm not just proud of you. I'm proud to know you. I'm proud of everything that you're doing out here. How you're uplifting other people around you. Like how you're uplifting on such a public platform as well, man. Like you're blessed and you're blessing others, and that's what was intended. That's how we got to move. That's how we got to be. So like, just keep letting it flow.
Man, I appreciate those words, bro, and you know what you mean to me, man, and shout out to my boy Chubby as well, bro, because he's top 2, top 1 inspirational. He started this podcast, just started it off rip. Teach Peace NYC, his clothing line, it always has a message, you know, and his transformation as well. He speaks about it in his episodes. But you know, shout out to him, man, and shout out to you, man.
The genuineness that Chubby speaks from too, like it be from the heart, and I could feel it in everything that he says. And I could also feel how y'all rub off on each other in really good ways, and that's also like. That's big. Like who you keep around you, like is everything.
Right. That's my dog, man. Shout out to Chubby, bro.
Shout out to Chubby.
Hey, man. I appreciate you for coming on this, man. Like
sir.
This has been dope, and I think people are really gonna enjoy watching this. Learn a little bit more about you. Learn a little bit more about me as well. And bro, you got any last words to say to anybody?
Learn from others, but live by your narrative.
Love it, bro. Love it. And there you have it. This has been your host, David Irons. Joining me with my brand Sam.
Yes, sir.
And this is Respect Your Passion podcast with love.
Hey, you guys know. Hold up. Look. Check it. Sorry I ain't end up a college kid. Stood on the corner with the problem kids. Wish I could show my brother how to live. This ain't the way, bro, do the opposite. At night I pray, hope we get out of this. Ain't tryna play no hot ass block with Knicks. I'm tryna hit it out late.